yeah, how exciting is this? And just like buses, you're waiting for a bus and then all of a sudden 3 come along, or in this case 5. So we have 2 of the Birmingham Boys chilling in the afternoon sun, but the bellies don't look that full, so I'm thinking these boys might get up and move at some stage. It looks like they may have had something small. The male on the right has a slightly bigger belly than the other brother, but it's still not as full as what it can be. You can still see it does go in towards the back legs. Whereas if they're nice and full, it looks like a huge balloon. It looks very uncomfortable. It definitely looks like there's room for more in there. But they are flat out. They're getting a little bit irritated by flies, certainly the brother on the right. So again, if they get irritated enough, they might just stand up, and that's the beauty of cats. If you are willing to be patient, you might just see some movement or interesting behaviour from them. Now, I understand that this is part of quite a large coalition, and I remember when I was here last, we were hearing about the Birmingham Boys coming in from the Manuletti, which is north of where we are in Djuma Game Reserve, but we were hearing it was going to be quite a large coalition, unheard of really, about 8 or 9 males, but I think that never materialised. I think perhaps 6 came down in the end, but I think they are 1 short now. So they are the big boys now in the area. I think they chased off the Majingi lions. I haven't really heard about them. So they are the main boys in this area. So I think there was a question coming in from John. Hopefully I've got the name right. And John, good afternoon. And John wanting to know if the manes of the lion makes them more open or more visible to prey. And they can do to a certain extent, but generally speaking, if the males are actually hunting at night under the cover of darkness, that's not going to make too much of an issue. It's when they're hungry and they're actually out when it's overcast like this. If they do try and hunt, then it could make them a little bit more visible, but not to a huge degree. If they play the cards right, they can still stay very well hidden. But of course, it's the bulk of their bodies that really help when it comes to hunting. And we did get asked a little while ago if males actually initiate the hunt. And generally speaking, most of us haven't seen a male initiate a hunt, but apparently Taylor has with the Charleston Pride, which is found, the Charleston Coalition, who they're found about a few kilometres south of here. And she has seen the males initiating a hunt, but generally speaking, if they're with the males can help, well, they can conserve their energy, the females can hunt. And if there's any other males in the area, that means the males still have the energy for defending that pride against any intruders. But as I say, males are actually very good hunters in their own right, and they can get involved in the hunt, especially if it's a buffalo, lending their weight to that if needed. And we've even seen the males hunt by themselves, even 2 males hunting a buffalo by themselves. So, by the power of technology, we are going from male lions here in South Africa over to Kenya with James, who also has some male lions for you. Well, I wonder if these lions are dreaming of the wildebeest that lions in Mara have caught. We haven't had much movement from them, but I think they're catching the last rays of the sun. I wouldn't be surprised if they do get up soon. We're hoping we might even hear them calling. That would be amazing, because the rest of their coalition is not here by the looks of it. It's just these two boys. And unfortunately, this is how previous coalitions have lost their hold on this area. So there was another big coalition, now huge coalitions of 6 are really quite unheard of, but they seem to be getting that way in the Sabi Sands over the last few years. And the Mapokos were numbering 6 at one stage, and then they started going off in 2s and 3s, and the other coalitions in the area started picking them off one by one. And that's how the Majingilans came in, and they also numbered 6, and they had quite a huge clash with the Mapokos. They took out one of the male lions, and the Mapokos retaliated and took out one of the Majingilans. So they're actually doing what they really shouldn't be doing. They should actually be keeping together to hold on to their territory. But it doesn't sound like there's a lot of male lions in the area, so their tenure should be safe for now, but it does switch over quite rapidly if they're not careful. So it is a numbers game at the end of the day. So obviously a coalition of 6 is going to be able to defend against lower numbers of male lions, and that means that they can actually father more cubs in the area and keep those cubs safe and through to adulthood. Because if another coalition come in, they can and do kill young cubs. Hi Kimberly, welcome on board this afternoon. Kimberly wanting to know if these brothers will stay together for life, and yes, unless something major happens, they will stay together. But as I say, if they're not careful and they get picked off by other lions, then they could be chased out of the area and maybe be forced to become a nomadic male, or maybe be forced to team up with another male. You're welcome to pull in. But look at those impressive canines. They really are so well equipped. The canine teeth. They're going to have the shearing teeth as well, the carnassial pair. So that is the molar and premolar on the upper and lower jaw. And that's going to be used for when they're actually trying to shear the meat from the bone. And then obviously the huge claws on those massive paws. I don't know if we moved the lion. It's crossing their legs, and we can see the paws. Look at that. Absolute pure African power. Incredible. So I believe Brent has a female lion for you to see. I wonder what she's going to be up to. It'd be interesting to find out. Spawning, which means they're trying to get a lot of oxygen into their body so it can oxygenate their muscles, and it'll be ready for looking for anything to fill their bellies. We have had a few stretches, a few shuffles, but still very much out for the count. So I do believe there's actually 4 Birmingham Boys left, not 5. Hi Sharon, interesting question. So is the coalition open to new members to build up their numbers again? Generally speaking, I've not heard of unrelated males joining a large group, but I have heard and have seen unrelated males when there may be 1 or so banding together to at least have some company and obviously some help in the hunting. So it'd be interesting to hear other thoughts, especially from the Mara, where they obviously do have quite large coalitions as well, to see if they've actually experienced that. It'd be really interesting to find out from them. Because as I say, what can be true for animals in one area can be different for animals in another area, because there's so many different factors that will influence the changes and the adaptations in behaviour. And it's all to do with the survival in that area. Now you can see the male on the right is slightly paler in the mane than the male on the left. Hi Megan, and this actually feeds right into your question if males actually fight each other within the coalition. And they don't generally, because they are brothers. And generally they're going to be sharing the same genes. So when it comes to mating, whoever gets to the female first and she accepts him, it tends to be sort of accepted. There may be a little bit of a spat, but nothing too major, and over kills as well. But just as I was about to say, you can see the male on the right, his mane is slightly paler than the male on the left. Now that's a sign of dominance, so there is still a hierarchy within the male coalition. You've got the alpha male, then the beta male, and so on, depending on how many there are in the coalition. So the darkness of the mane is actually controlled, they believe, by testosterone levels. So the more testosterone, his brother. So I'd say he's the more dominant of the two, and he's going to be more attractive to the females. So they're more likely to choose him over his brother. Now, the condition of the mane can also change between seasons, between areas. So the hotter areas, they tend to have shorter manes and paler manes, because that can actually help with regulating the temperature. So the dark manes will also absorb a lot of heat, and it will stop heat escaping from the body as well. So if they're able to actually have a very long dark mane, that again shows the females, you know what, I can actually withstand very hot temperatures, and I'm still here, I'm still surviving. So if you want to mate with me, then I'm going to have very strong cubs with you. And that's what it's all about. It's literally showing how fit you are and making that well known. And that the mane can also be affected by injury and disease. So if they're not well, if they are injured and they're not getting enough nutrients, their mane can be reduced or even fall out. So it really does help to show how fit they are and become more attractive to the females. Now, one of the best sounds that you can ever hear in the bush is the males roaring. And if you are lucky enough to actually have them right next to your vehicle, you actually feel the vehicle vibrate and your whole body vibrate. It is really something very, very special. I'm really hoping we'll be able to share that with you. Keep your fingers crossed. But I believe Brent still has the lioness, so I think it's worth checking out to see what she's up to, seeing as our boys don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon. Well, we did have a beady eye just open, see what we're up to. So he's definitely keeping a very close watch on us. But still no yawning as yet. But don't be fooled into thinking that these lions have no clue what's going on. If an impala was to walk through here, or if I was to get out the car, these males would be up like a shot. Now, it may take them a few moments if they're in a very deep sleep to realise what's going on, but those bellies are telling me they would take any opportunity, because there is a lack of belly there. So the sun is almost completely gone. So it's just a little bit light, but it is almost gone. And now the darkness is their time. This is when they can make use of the night. But the problem is they have the moon now to contend with, and the moon can change the dynamics again. So under the cover of darkness, they have the upper hand. The herbivores are less likely to detect them, but in the full moon, and I think it is full moon tonight, the herbivores can see them approaching if they're not careful. So you generally find the herbivores going to the centre of an open plain so they can actually see any movement from the predators. So it's going to be against them tonight, and that could be why we're seeing the bellies not as full as what they could be. So the male on the right might have just hit it lucky, maybe with a small daker or something like that may have crossed his path. I've actually seen a bushbuck not realise that a sleeping lion was there and jumped over him, and he actually grabbed it. Absolutely incredible. So hopefully they will find a way to hunt tonight. Good afternoon to you, Raisa. Raisa asking if I've heard of the white mussel disease in the Unkahuma Pride, and I have, and I've not heard it before. And apparently it's because the vegetation has not been as nutritious as in previous years, because unfortunately South Africa has gone through quite a big drought, and it's not as bad this year, but it's still very, very dry. Even though we are in winter, it's still extremely dry. The dams are not as full as what they would be at this stage had they had the right amount of rainfall. So apparently, because there was not as much nutrients available for the buffalo, there wasn't enough nutrients really to pass on to the lions when the lions were feeding on the buffalo. So unfortunately the cubs, because they're so young, they were quite badly affected by it, and the musk isn't developing. So apparently a few cubs were susceptible to it, and they did actually gain the mussel this year, but not a nice disease. But I've not heard of it until coming back actually. But it's good to know that they can actually recover from it if they get the right food at the right time. Now I was just trying to work out how old these males might be, and you can see on the nose there, it's still slightly pink with a few speckles of black, and the other brother as well has a bit of pink. So generally speaking, the nose does change colour. So when they're first born, it's usually quite pink in colour, and as they get older, that pink becomes more black, and as they become sort of 10, 12, it's very, very black. So you can kind of have a guesstimate at the age. So looking at where the mane is on the body, bearing in mind what I said earlier, the mane can fall out, but it doesn't look like it's reached down the back behind the shoulder blades as yet. So I'm thinking they're probably around the 5, maybe 6-year-old mark, because they still have a little bit of pink there on the nose. I'm wondering if you can hear the arrow-marked babblers who were just calling then, giving their evening chorus before they head to bed. And a few of the collared Cape turtle doves singing, but it is becoming quieter now. It's still very peaceful for these two boys. So let's see if Brent's got any action with his lioness.